Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle, energetic leadership guide, psychic medium, and somatic coach for ambitious leaders who know their gifts are real and who want to stand fully in them. Here, you'll learn how to trust your intuition, embody your vision, and step into the freedom you've been craving, all without chasing more certifications or carrying stuff that does not belong to you. Every week, I'll share powerful practices and conversations with thought leaders and changemakers that help you transform your vision into embodied confidence, claim your gifts without apology, and lead with both clarity and freedom. Because your gifts aren't cute, they're powerful, they're real, and they're needed. Start today by downloading my free energy audit at brendawinkle.com/audit. It's the exact tool I use to track what's fueling me and what's draining me. It will help you discern between that hit of achievement and true joy so that you can lead with more clarity and impact. This is your space to stop proving, start embodying, and live fully in your gifts. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. Hello, and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. Today on the podcast, we're going to be asking one central question, which is your routine helping or hurting you? So let's dive in. First, a little bit of background into what made me ask this question. So in March, something bad and scary happened with Bentley, my dog. He is an Italian Greyhound Chihuahua mix, we think, although we don't actually know. I haven't done DNA testing, but that's what people think. I probably should get DNA done because it occurs to me I could be way off on both of those things. But anyway, I digress. So anyway, when this thing happened, I was looking for support in Portland. And the people that I was looking for support from used a lot of punitive training techniques, including e-collars, which I am philosophically opposed to, and other types of punishment-based therapy. And as a nervous system expert, I am not about to subject my anxious dog to shocks or other kinds of unpredictable negative feedback as a way to get him to behave in a particular way. Like, those two things just don't go together, because if you want to have someone improve in behavior, then you have to allow their nervous system to be regulated. And when we're talking about training as far as dogs and we're using any kind of punishment, that is dysregulating to the dog's nervous system. And it's not going to actually train or fix anything. What it will teach is compliance under certain conditions, but not actual teaching. So I was looking for someone really specific, and I couldn't find what I was looking for in Portland, but I knew I needed support. And so I started looking on social media. And I've followed multiple dog trainers over the years because I love dogs, I'm interested in dogs, and I had followed dogs that were located all over the United States. But one of these trainers really caught my eye, and her name is Gia. Her company is called Thinking Canine, and she's got accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok. And I had been following her as soon as I realized that my dog had anxiety and perhaps reactivity. So when this event happened in March, I reached out to Gia through her website, emailed her, told her our situation, and asked if she'd be willing to work with us. And I was so happy that she said yes. So Bentley and I have been working with Gia since March of 2025. We started off with weekly sessions until things kind of leveled out a little bit. And then we moved to every other week. And now we're kind of at once a month or so types of sessions. And over the process, we've become friends. And I really look forward to these sessions and times with Gia. Not only do I really enjoy her as a person and consider her a friend, but she's helping us. She's really changing both Bentley and my life, because even though I've worked with dogs for years, I've fostered 18 dogs, I've worked with other trainers, there were a lot of things that I was doing wrong. And there were a lot of things that I didn't know because I hadn't worked specifically with an anxious dog like Bentley before. And so everything that she has told me has worked. And if there's a weak link in this, it's probably me. Because if there's any delay in some of the training things, it's because there's things that I can improve. But all this is to say, we've seen tremendous improvement in Bentley, and he was feeling more confident. He was not triggering or reacting to other dogs as frequently. He was capable of being very close to a trigger without reacting. I mean, we were on the way up. Things were really going well. And then I went to London. And while I was in London, which I still have to tell you about, I can't wait to share about that with you because, whoa, some amazing things happened. While I was in London, he stayed with a family friend. And I should have asked more questions about what I'm going to tell you next. What I'm going to tell you next is all of the information that I have because I was so shocked that this happened and that this was allowed to happen that I just didn't have words. And somehow Bentley was attacked by an off-leash dog. And there was a lot of biting involved. And while Bentley didn't have any outward puncture wounds, he did have swelling on his muzzle when I picked him up. So it had happened fairly recently, like maybe that day or the day before. And he was a wreck, like a total nervous system wreck. He was scared. He was scared of me. He was very, very scared of other dogs. In fact, his behaviors, his reactivity, his anxiousness and nervousness were worse than when Gia and I started working together. So as soon as I brought him home, I thought, well, with dogs, there's a 3-3-3 rule, like 3 days, and then they kind of decompress, and then 3 weeks, and then they feel like they're at home in 3 months, and then they feel like they're at home for good. And that's, when you're fostering or adopting, that's one of the things that they tell you, or they should tell you. So I thought, well, I'm going to wait at least 2 days before I panic and give him this decompression time. So I got home on Tuesday night, picked him up, found out about this. Wednesday was rough, really rough with him. And Thursday was really rough with him. By Friday, I thought, you know what? I need help. So I texted Gia and I was like, SOS, here's what happened. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help. And so she immediately texted me some things to do, including we had to suspend our walks for the next 7 days so that we could just really take care of Bentley's nervous system, really help him calm down so that he wouldn't even be anxious seeing another dog because he was so scared about what happened. So we just went outside in my little tiny backyard and played around in the house for exercise for a week. And then he started to improve slowly with some of the things that she had asked me to start and some of the protocols that we brought back in. So anyway, last week it was time for our session with Gia. And so we were giving an update and both of us were really sad and disappointed that this had happened to Bentley because it was not just a setback. It was nearly catastrophic. Like it was a big deal. It was bad. So we were talking about that, and then we went into the training part, and Gia was asking me some questions like, is there anything else? Is there anything else? And there were two things that I wanted to talk about. And one of them, she was so kind and she kind of giggled and she said, Brenda, you're not supposed to do that. And so I'm not doing that thing anymore. But the other thing that was really interesting is I was telling her that Bentley has started to demand bark, meaning he will just stand and look at me and bark with expectation about something that he wants. And he's always done that a little bit, but it's really elevated to a point that's like, okay, we need some help. So Gia said, the thing I want you to do is to shake up his routine. Don't let him be able to predict any part of his schedule. Walk at different times, do different kinds of treats, do different activities in different rooms. If you do physical therapy in the nights, usually do it in the afternoon or the morning. Really shake it up so that his routine is completely unpredictable, and that should take him right out of it. And everything that Gia has ever told me has been accurate and has worked. And so I didn't question that this would work. I knew it would. And then in the back of my mind, I was thinking to myself, oh, this is interesting because this is coming up against my training as an educator about how important it is to create routine and structure. And so I was just noticing that in myself and also being like, nope, we're going to try this. We're going to try this. So for the past week or so, we've been doing that. I've been shaking up the routine, going different directions in our walks, going to different places on our walks, doing our physical therapy and our training at different segments in the day than we usually do. I'm extending some of my work hours in certain places in the day while shortening them in other places of the day so that the walks are less predictable. And I noticed by day 2 that Bentley was more relaxed. And I noticed that he was not anticipating what was going to happen next. He was just kind of going with the flow. And I thought, well, isn't this interesting? I mean, obviously I knew it was going to work because Gia told me it was going to work, but it really worked. So kept going. And then I started to notice changes in me. I started to notice that I had an increased sense of creativity, that new ideas were coming in, that I was looking at things in new ways from new perspectives. I had more energy. I was very much aware of what I was doing. I was so much more conscious in how I was choosing to do different activities. It was easier for me to let go of behaviors I don't want to continue or that I don't want to become a problem. Like one of the things that I like to do is I like to sit down and watch Netflix for like 30 minutes. But if I'm really stressed, sometimes it'll turn into an hour or even an hour and a half. And there's no judgment against that, but that's just not how I want to live. And so I was noticing that as I was shaking up the routine, I'm not even watching TV. I have so many more ideas. I kept remembering, oh, I want to go read this book, or oh, I want to go do this activity, or oh, I want to work on the house. And I wasn't remembering those things when I was stuck in my routine, which is what brings me to the question for today, which is your routine helping or holding you back? So this is really a question. It's not necessarily a teaching, it's a question. So instead of chaos, which I thought might happen, shifting up the schedule and the routine unlocked new energy. It allowed for a new identity to come forward and new clarity, both for me and for Bentley. So if shifting a routine helped me and my dog this much, what could shifting yours do for you and your leadership? So let's dig in. So the first thing we want to understand is the power of a routine, why structure and routine works. Well, routines feel safe because our nervous systems really thrive on predictability. So if we're going through a very stressful time, or you're living in kind of that low grade chronic stress, sometimes the structure and predictability of a routine can create safety in ways other things can't. And so when we look at things from a trauma informed lens, keeping the routine in those cases can be really important because the structure will create a little bit of nervous system safety, which can help you think more clearly. It can help you relax. It can help you let down just a little bit because that safety does come from structure. So I want to really name, if you're in a time period where there's a ton of unrest and unpredictability and uncertainty in your life, this may not be the time to change up your structure in the way that I did with Bentley, but I think there's still potentially an invitation to change up some structure within structure, right? So it wouldn't be that you have to throw out your entire schedule, but maybe you could change up how you do two things. Or maybe you could shift your morning routine so that instead of showering, makeup, brush your teeth, you do shower, brush your teeth, makeup, or something like that. So just know that I'm not telling you what to do. Please don't hear that. I am creating the invitation and hopefully some curiosity into how you might be able to allow yourself some freedom to change up your routine. So, high achievers like you and like me thrive and lean hard on routine because it helps create a sense of control in the middle of chaos. It helps us ground, it can be protective for our energy, and it can also help reduce decision fatigue. So, there is a case to be made that routine is really helpful and really supportive and can actually scaffold things for us. At the same time, and we'll get here in a second, routines can hold you back. But here are examples that your nervous system might be clinging to that are actually really supportive. So let's say, for example, every time you get home from work, you have a routine that you change out of your work clothes into your clothes that you wear for the evenings and your tennis shoes, and then you go walk your dog. Your body, your mind knows that that's what's going to happen. And maybe you've trained your nervous system that that's the time you can relax and release. That was definitely true for me when I was a teacher. That was what my routine was like. I'd come home from school, change my clothes, and then I would go walk the dogs. And it was like a, okay. So if you know something like that is working for you and it's a bookend of safety and structure, I think that piece might be useful to leave. So, like an example for this would be I am not messing with my sleep schedule. I'm still waking and sleeping at the same time, even though I'm shaking up different parts of my day. I'm still having my meals at pretty much the same time, even though I'm shaking up the rest of my day. So there's structure within the fluidity. Structure is not a bad thing. I want to make sure that that is very, very clear. But your routines might be holding you back if they are turning into ruts. If your routine is turning into it has to be this, then this, then this, then this, it might not be allowing you the freedom of thought, the freedom of creativity that you're really craving. And so if your routine is feeling more like a cage instead of a supportive structure, there might be some signs for that. So it could be that you feel restless and you don't know why. It could be that creativity feels harder to access. Maybe it just feels a little bit flat. It might be that you feel like you're managing your life and not really living it. Like you're just going from calendar item to calendar item to calendar item or checklist to checklist to checklist. And it might be that even though you crave freedom, you find yourself resisting changing anything. So, if you're experiencing any four of those things, it might be an invitation to gently, in a way that supports your nervous system, invite some change. So, the thing is that your body is going to signal you in what's feeling good. So, signs that things might need to shift would be fatigue at unpredictable times, irritability, or even a lack of motivation. So, if you're experiencing those things, it could be that your routine is part of what might be holding you back. Now, it can also be that you might have energy leaks in other ways. And it might be that you're around people who are taking energy from you or that you're giving your energy away. And so we can talk about that too. And I would direct you to the energy audit if you haven't already done that. I recommend doing it often. I do mine at least once a week. And it's amazing, even though I do this work all the time and I'm pretty tuned into my body and pretty tuned into the signals, I'm always like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that when I get ready to do the energy audit. So if you haven't done the energy audit or haven't downloaded it yet, go grab it. And if you've already downloaded it, go use it. Go use it. This is your reminder. So, the benefits of shifting up the routine, like in my example, I felt new energy, new clarity, new ideas, even that new sense of identity emerging. For Bentley, he became calmer, happier, easier to train. He's more relaxed. And all of this came from an internal shift, just changing up the routine. So it's easy to fear that change because the structure feels safe. You know what to do when, right? And if you're a high achiever like me, which you probably are in some ways, it feels like, well, gosh, I have this block set to do this, and I know I have this obligation at this time. And so it might feel like I don't really know how to approach this change. So, even again, like I said at the beginning of this episode, even if you're shifting up the order in which you do things within a certain block of time, it can be really freeing. You can also think about routes that you go. Can you take a walk in a different direction? Can you drive home a different way? Can you, oh, I know I'm going to really push some buttons here. Can you go to a different grocery store than you usually go to? Just for the sake of creating a sense of newness and new ideas? Because I promise you, even that level of change, of shakeup, is going to bring in new ideas and new awarenesses. So, when you can allow yourself to change the rhythm of your day from time to time, it might open space for strategic thinking instead of constant reacting. It might open the door for new and intuitive hits to really come through instead of just being on autopilot. You'll have these new awarenesses, these new ideas that come in, and it will very likely create an expanded capacity for joy, creativity, and leadership. You might notice your kids relax a little bit or your partner relaxes a little bit when you can let go of how closely you're tying yourself to your routine. Shifting a routine doesn't mean losing control. It doesn't mean like throwing the calendar up and forgetting it, but it does mean finding a new groove that matches who you're becoming. And it means creating enough space and flexibility in that routine to allow those creative ideas to flow because creativity does need spaciousness, it needs time. And one of my go to coping mechanisms, which I see a lot, is the more stressed I get, the more I try to put calendar things on the calendar. And so like instead of backing off, I'll add more. And it happens subconsciously, and then I'll look at my calendar and be like, "Whoa. Okay, something is going on right now. Something is happening for me. I need to slow down and address what's going on internally. Why am I packing my calendar full? What am I trying to feel? What am I trying to avoid?" And having the courage to ask those introspective questions is pure gold because the answers are already there. So when you get tuned into what's happening in your body, you're going to notice these cues somatically in your body about what feels good and what doesn't. So if something makes you feel lighter, a little bit excited, like an openness in the heart, maybe you can breathe a little bit easier. That would be your body's invitation to say, "Oh, this is feeling good. Let's do more of this." If you notice yourself feeling a sense of tightness or constriction or heaviness, that is also a compass to say, let's maybe not do so much of this. Let's find a way to shift this so that it feels better. These small changes open big awarenesses. And awareness, even though you're not actively doing something, is one of the tenets of change. It's so essential for us to create awareness. And sometimes the only thing we need to do is to create awareness. And the moment we have an awareness about what's really happening for us, it begins to shift and evolve. That's the beauty of it. So we know this from quantum physics because there's an observation effect that as soon as a molecule is being observed, it begins to change. So you can look at any science text about this and just look up observation effect. The same thing is true for you. The minute you begin to observe how you're showing up and really notice, oh, this is what's happening, it begins to shift. It begins to change in positive ways. And I think that's really the beauty of shifting the routine in some capacity is it creates more consciousness, more conscious living. So yesterday, and yesterday is going to be relative by the time you listen to this. But yesterday, I was really preparing for this episode. I was creating the outline and I was thinking about, yeah, I really probably need to be careful about getting too routinized, too stuck in my structure, too stuck in my routine when the phone rang. And it was my daughter. And she's like, "What are you doing now?" And I said, "Well, I'm drafting a podcast episode." And she said, "Do you want to go to the mall?" And I didn't have capacity for the mall yesterday. I was like, well, I really want to spend time with you, but I just don't think I want to do the mall today. And she's like, okay, how about if Jane, our Chewini, her Chewini, how about Jane and I come over and I'll bring you the cherry lime syrup? And so a couple of days ago, she had gone to one of those wholesale places to pick up some of the Torani flavored syrups for her work because she works at a restaurant. And when I knew she was going, I asked her to pick up some of the cherry lime. And I love that cherry lime syrup, and I love cherry lime slushes and Italian ices and all those kinds of things. And I haven't done any Italian slushes or cherry lime anything all summer except for the cherry lime Waterloos, which I love a cherry lime Waterloo, the sparkling water. So anyway, she's like, okay, we'll come over and bring you the cherry lime syrup. So she did. And we made little drinks with the cherry lime Waterloo and the cherry lime syrup, and then put a little bit of lemon vodka in there just for fun. And we just sat in the afternoon in these giant, enormous wine glasses, like think of Olivia Pope. Did you ever watch that show, Scandal? Her giant wine glass. I bought two wine glasses after that because I just thought they were so elegant. Anyway, we used those giant, like fishbowl size wine glasses, and um, had these little cute beverages at like 4 in the afternoon. And it was so fun. We just sat there and played with the dogs and threw toys and talked. And then she went on to do the rest of her evening, and I went on to do the rest of my evening. And my creativity has been on fire ever since. And it was such a meta example of how we can shift that routine and let go of, oh, I have to do this at this time. And then new things happen. It was so fun. So, as we begin to recap, your routine can either anchor you or limit you, and it may even be a combination of both. In fact, it very likely could be. What really matters is noticing when a routine isn't serving you, noticing when you're getting so stuck on the routine that you're stuck in the routine. So, I have a question for you. What is one routine that you're ready to shift? What's one routine you're ready to shift? And I have a little experiment you can do this week. I would love to invite you to change something that you normally do to a different time of day, if you can. And it doesn't have to be massive. It could be massive. It could be like, depending on your time flexibility, it could be that you completely restructure your day. And if you don't have a lot of time flexibility, it could be that you reverse a couple of activities within a specific time. Like maybe you have a routine, like I mentioned the morning routine earlier, but maybe you have a routine in the evening that you make dinner, you eat dinner, you do the dishes, you read a book, whatever. Try changing up the order of how you do things and watch what happens. So I really want to hear about this from you. I want to know about the experiment. I want to know if it works. I want to know if this resonates. I think podcasting is a little bit like it's a little bit like screaming into the void. And your feedback is never a bother. It is so great when you message me, you email me, and you say, "Hey, this resonated," or "Hey, I want more of this," or "Hey, this was awesome." I absolutely love that. It's never a bother. I really do want to hear from you. And if today's conversation got you thinking about whether your routines are holding you or helping you, I want to give you the tool that I talked about. It's the energy audit. I give this to all my clients. I use it myself. It's a powerful, simple way to see exactly what's fueling you and what's draining you so that you can stop running on autopilot and start leading from clarity and alignment. And here's the thing. For most really successful people, high achievers like you and me, it's very difficult for us to discern the difference between the hit of achieving and joy. And so this energy audit is going to help you really lean into the nuance between that dopamine hit of, "Oh, I checked that off the box," and, "Oh, this is bringing me so much joy." Because that nuance, so that you can chase joy, not achievement, that's where the good stuff lives. So you can grab that for free at brendawinkle.com/audit. That's BrendaWinkle.com/AUDIT, and I'll put the link in the show notes. It's the perfect step for you if you're ready to create more energy, more space, more ease in your leadership. And if you've already downloaded the energy audit, this is your reminder to go use it. Okay? Thank you so much for being here with me today. You're going to notice some changes in the structure and the frequency of guests, in the types of conversations that we're having on the podcast. And I just want to say thank you for being along with me on the journey as I evolve, as the podcast evolves. You know, growth isn't easy. It's not comfortable, but it feels so good. So thank you for being with me on the journey. If this meant something to you, if you felt like you benefited in any way, would you please consider doing either one of these two things or both? Would you please share this with 3 of your friends? And would you please go give the podcast your rating and review? Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now. Until next time.